Hello, everyone, and welcome to this LinkedIn Live. I'm your host, Lisa Bragg, and joining me, as already on the screen, is Jill McAbe. I'm trying to do the switching thing to all the technical parts of it, so this could be a little bit of fun. So Jill will be on screen by herself for a bit. I'll be behind. It's back to my old TV broadcast days, so it makes it even more fun. So I'm so excited to have Jill with us because she brings a wealth of knowledge, and also she's going to tell us a little bit about an article that's just about to be posted in Thrive. So we're going to get the early bird scoop on that. So Jill, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're an award-winning author. You've had several businesses. You've helped businesses grow. Over to you.
Okay. First of all, thanks for having me here today. Lisa, excited to talk to you and play with all this technical stuff and get to know it. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Jill McCabe. I did make a #1 bestseller with my book on Amazon when I first published it. It's called It's Go Time. I wrote it because I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. For 10 of those years, I've been a consultant helping established entrepreneurs grow. And at one point, I was this consultant helping people add millions to their top lines while I was charging by the hour. And I gave my head a shake and decided that since what I was doing was working, I wanted to build my own business in a more intentional way, and then struggled, like hit a wall. Spent years kind of spinning my wheel on the hamster wheel. I bet some of you guys listening to this can relate, and just really thought to myself, so what's the model? So I took all these coaching programs and I'm like, well, they weren't quite what I needed. And yet the work I used to do with organizations wasn't what I needed. So I'm that person who's like, all right, if it's not there, you got to build it. And I built a model for people specifically who sell, I say, you could call it expertise-based businesses, but if you sell your talent and time, I don't think there's a really solid model out there to grow your business. So I developed one over 10 years, used it on myself, used it on my clients, and I taught teaching everyone how to do it in my book because I want everyone to have a great business.
And it's interesting too, the timing of this, because so many people are starting businesses right now. So I think these tips for even if you're just starting and thinking about it, or if you are, been in business like I have for 13 years or even beyond, if you want to move up and really get your business to grow. So I'm so happy you're with us. We want you as the audience to participate too. So if you leave comments, we'll be able to see them, and leave comments or your questions or how you've increased your business too. We want to know from you how you've transformed and thrived, especially during this era that we're in right now. So I love the article that you wrote for Thrive magazine, and you wrote about holding the faith and going all in. I thought that was great. We have to have faith in ourselves and go all in. Tell me a little bit about what you were thinking when you wrote "Go All In."
We're jumping in deep right off the top here because that's really real. Like, we hear these terms like all in. What does all in mean? As I tried to make the pivot to my own business that had more leverage, and I struggled like crazy. And I thought to myself, okay, so what would how have I helped people create so much value? And then when it comes to creating value for myself, why am I struggling? So I started taking a really deep look at that. And I thought a lot about faith. And I really thought a lot about the faith in self, faith in my skills, faith in what I could do. I had, like, I've helped award-winning entrepreneurs win more awards. I helped people create millions and millions of dollars, and I'm struggling myself. What's going on? Where's that faith? What does faith mean? And then I realized, if I don't have complete faith in myself, right, how do I get more people to have faith in me, especially online when it's harder to get to know someone and there's this kind of like, oh, like I've been taken advantage of and I don't want to get taken advantage of again. And I thought, what does having full faith mean? And then I realized, what it means? It means like you act today as if the success that you were going after has already arrived, right? You ask today, like, okay, what would I do today if that success that I know I can get, I know I can create that kind of value for people, if I was already having that success, what would be going on in my life? How would I behave? Start behaving that way today and see those results tomorrow. And I realized I had been playing small. I realized I had been investing in like $500 coaching programs, $200 coaching programs, like playing it safe, like doing something and I mean, I invested like $10,000 in one program, another 15,000 in another. They weren't the right ones, kept scaling up, kept getting, and I thought, if I believed totally in my future, would that making a mistake in a former investment, would that stop me from going after another investment, going, no, I think I got that wrong? Okay, would I go, oh, well, all coaching programs are wrong, or was that one maybe really good but not the one I needed? And that's what it was for me. That's what's going all in, just going, you know what, I'm all in. I am behaving as though I'm certain this is going to happen. And my business skyrocketed within months of that mind shift.
Was it scary though? Because it's easy to invest the $2,000, $5,000. So you're saying it is scary, but so when you really go all that in, like, do you wake up and say, okay, today is the day that I'm going to invest that much more money in myself and in my business?
It wasn't about the money. Yes and no, right? So it was about going, all right, I bought this. Okay, so basically we only struggle. All information is available pretty much for free, right? Either in a book or on Google. So really it's about our ability to know what our problem is. And so I invested in this $10,000 program with Brendon Bouchard. Great program, right? But it assumed that you already had a large audience of 100,000 or more. Well, guess what? It didn't quite say that. And maybe I just chose not to see it. But there I was in a small group of people with him. And it was like, great training, not for me. Then I invested in this $15,000 program. All of it had to sell your thing. I was like, great program. I met incredible people. I met Tribe. But I actually still hadn't clarified what I was selling, right? So when we are trying to solve problems, sometimes we misdiagnose ourselves, and then we go in the wrong thing. But you did ask about the money and was it scary? And I guess what I decided with All In was I couldn't go back to the corporate world or even back to consulting for entrepreneurs without spending the rest of my life depressed. So I thought to myself, I'd found something I loved. I was all in on that level. And I thought to myself, I'd rather go bankrupt trying than not try. And I remember talking to a friend on a dog walk in the neighborhood going, well, so I did this today. That was like when I had gone over 100,000 in like 3 months in like getting the support I needed. And it was totally worth it. And even if it wasn't, it was like I couldn't look back on my life. And if back when I was helping entrepreneurs make a fortune, we were behaving as though we knew they'd succeed and we invested in them. And so it's difficult when the product is yourself to have it's a lot easier when you've sold like a loaf of bread and you're like, well, we know that this loaf of bread sells, right? But it was a lot. Yeah, it took faith.
But just to carry on that thread, because yes, a loaf of bread and ice cream or something, is going, a bottle of wine that will sell. It just seems a product. It just seems, and somebody in product's going to say, no, it's not easier, but it seems easier. But when you're selling your brain space and all the knowledge that you've gathered over X amount of decades or years, it seems harder because when, I was in a conversation just 2 days ago with brilliant women and somebody said, well, this is my consulting fee, or somebody suggested that they pay this consulting fee and they were shocked at that. Well, what makes you worth that much money? And that was the challenge around the table is like, well, it's just your time. Talk to us a little bit about that mindset shift, though, because it is just your time. That's the attitude when you're talking to people.
Isn't that rough, right? So, and then what's even worse is I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a human being. I see people posting and I'm like, that's brilliant. I genuinely am admiring, the skills of other people and the sales abilities of other people and thinking like, comparitis. Yeah. I mean, I just did a piece, I had a piece written about me in Forbes on that topic of like imposter syndrome, and all these people are great. Here's the thing, there's that I think we've all heard this before, but I think embodying it is hard. We have a creak in our floor, in our wooden floor, and it's driving us crazy. We're going mental. And so we bring someone in, they're like, I'm sorry, like that's the floor. I'm sorry, that's why I can't figure it out. And then somebody comes all of a sudden, walks around, kind of listens, walks around some more, grabs a nail, hammers it in one spot and says, $1,000. They're like, what? That was 10 minutes. It's like, well, I spent 30 years learning where to put that nail.
It's that Xerox, the old one of the Xerox that we've all heard through business where, $15,000. Well, no. So, yeah.
And I knew I created value, right? So I think it's important if you've created value. I mean, I think there's like two stages in business I talk about in my book, It's Go Time. There's explore and then there's exploit. And one of the things that I think is really I know is really holding people back is jumping to exploit before you've explored. What that means in the like in entrepreneurial businesses, we talked about, is it hard to sell a product or talent? But the companies I used to work with were proven, right? So we knew if we could get certain things out that we could blow it up. But what happens when you're just starting? How do you become proven? This is where I think a lot of people, there's not enough conversation about the right topic. And I think the right topic is, what are you proven doing? And please accept that as the supportive challenge that it is, right? So if it's about you having an idea for something that creates value, that creates transformation for a specific niche, go out and let someone be your guinea pig, right? If you can get paid for it, I teach people how to get paid for that. But if you can't, like I didn't know how to get paid for that at the beginning. And I went out to a company that had leverage and said, I think I can do this for you. Will you let me do it? And they just went, sure. Now, it's just like, and then they were like, whoa, all this success. Great. Then I did it again. Then I did it again. In the first year, it feels like nothing's ever going to happen. And then year 3, you're like, whoa, I've come a long way. We're looking for marketing. We're looking for sales. We're trying to fix, how we sell and promote things. But it's like, how we sell and promote what, right? Because if you're selling your time by the hour, you're gonna have a hard time selling and promoting that. You've got to create transformation. You can I guarantee you can do it. I talk about how to do that in my book, It's Go Time. But you've got to, and you know how you figure out what transformation you create? You go to the clients you worked with, even if it was just ad hoc in the beginning, and you say to them, what was happening for you before? What was happening for you after? Even better, interview them before about what's going on, because they'll forget how far they came with you, and then interview them. So what's possible? And so what's possible because you can do that? And so what's possible? Don't leave it to their testimonial. Interview them about the new things going on in their world. That's your transformation. That's what you sell. Do that enough times and you'll create your own process for that.
And I think so often we get caught up when we're selling things, it's often we get caught up in the features and not the benefits. And so instead of thinking about, here, you're going to get 5 hours of my time, and you're going to get this and this, you're going to get, in one of my companies, it's like, you're going to get a website with X amount of pages. No, it's about the benefits. What are the benefits that I'm going to bring to you by, especially when I'm selling my consulting, the benefits that I'm going to bring to you that will transform what you're doing and move you along from, where you are today, but also maybe moving you into the knowledge or wisdom segment of the world too. So I always talk about benefits, try to talk about benefits.
For sure. And the benefit of the benefit, right? I'm making more, so this is what happens a lot, right? What's the benefit? Yes. And what's the benefit of that benefit? I remember the time I learned that. It was somebody who said, I just read a post like on Facebook, and it was so smart. It said, well, what's the benefit of going to the gym and getting buffed up, right? I can like pick my girlfriend up and swing her around on Valentine's Day. And I thought, oh, that's such a fun way of thinking about it. And then it's true. Like, what's the benefit, of having a business that works or having sales? You're breathing easy. What's happening for you and your family life? What's happening for your clients' family life? What's happening for their clients' clients? Like, just to keep actually realizing that it's way beyond that first benefit. It can be a really fun exercise, actually.
Okay, Jill, I'm just going to go look at our LinkedIn comments. So hopefully I don't have an audio thing here, because I'm just doing this the old-fashioned way here. There we go. Okay. Let me last time I did this, I got audio. There we go. What's happening? Okay, great. So we do want to hear from you. I have my LinkedIn up and ready to go. So if you have any questions for Jill, she talks often about imposter syndrome, and we're talking about the risk of playing small. When you try to be safe and not go for it, that is a risky place to be. So let's really get into that risk. I loved your line in it too. So let me try to find it. So, mitigating my risk was the risk. That was profound for me, that's the risk of all of it, especially now when things are moving fast, and that we don't have to be perfect at anything. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I wish
All that.
I would love to have my clients here talking about that. They'd be like, Jill is not perfect. They're like, I can't believe you left that in the video. It's like, yeah, because I want you to see how real you can be. So talk to you about not being perfect or just moving forward anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, talk to me about, that's where this is live and we're just having fun with it. And I think that's modeling all the time that things aren't perfect and it shouldn't be perfect right now. And that's where your authenticity comes out is going with the flow and thinking extemporaneously, being off the cuff, because that's where some genius really comes through. And I think we often play small because we're waiting for perfection. I don't know if that's what you mean, but that's what I've
It
seen.
is.
So,
Well, that's part of it, right? Or so part of it, what I mean is, Lisa, we're waiting for proof from the outside world. But the thing is, transformation starts. So I have all this neuroscience background. I have all this behavioral science background. I mean, I spent a lot of time figuring this stuff out. But so what happens is going into the neuroscience, but there's this thing in our brain that we get more of what we have. And so if we believe in ourselves, we'll see little signs of that. And if we appreciate those signs, more will grow. But what happens is, there's so many ways I could take that question. I'm so loving that question, by the way. But what happens is we look at, there's a lag time, right? And so we kind of do something and then the proof's not there like now. And then we're like, oh, it didn't work. It didn't work for me. And it's like, well, okay, hang on. Like you maybe that's not the thing. And I just had something happen with a client that I'm working with in Europe, and they had amazing results. They sent out a market research thing, and really good response rate to this kind of thing is 10%. They got 20%, and they keep sending me messages going, oh, we just didn't get enough feedback. And oh, we're really disappointed in our feedback. And it's like, well, that's actually an amazing outcome. And I see this happening with my clients that I work with all the time. They've actually done things that have had good outcomes, but because they've never necessarily been trained in what are how many hours do you spend on LinkedIn to get a client, or how many hours do you put in to do this, or what should you price? And so they don't know pricing structures, they don't know growth structures. And so you're comparing yourself against what? So I think that this faith happens where you go like, if one person comes forward, get excited. If two come forward, get excited. Have faith that it will grow. Have faith that if you provide value, people will come. There was a second part to your question that I think that I actually forgot. In the spirit of actually just being real, there's a second part to her question that I forgot that was also, I know what it was. It was like showing up as perfect. So I used to do this. I used to be like, I come from this family, like I joke, when I was growing up, I mean, I had a lot of work to do to get to this point. But I would tell a story like when I was 9 years old at dinner, and my parents were academics. So they were always like, where does that information come from? And is it valid and credible? And I'd be like, so-and-so happened to Susie at school today. And they'd be like, who is the source? I don't know. And it was like this inauthenticity. So it's funny because it is a family thing. And I noticed it was a family thing for me of coming up like pretending I'm perfect and pretending I got it all figured out and pretending everything's cool. And I did that for the longest time. And when I did, my business wasn't growing. And then when I just got super real about the problems, about the good stuff, about whatever, my business started going like this. And I saw that it came from my family because my brother was my client. So I have a program called Basecamp, where I help people actually crystallize what that transformational value they have is, and then show them all like the model to build a business on top of that. My brother took it because he lost his business during COVID. He was in the restaurant business and he needed something new. And he took my program. And then I asked him to leave a testimonial, for new people thinking of the program. And he had an amazing result. He's got a great business now. And everybody else's was like, Jill's great, blah, blah, blah. It's real. You're probably going to be freaking out about doing this investment. Do it. Your life is going to change. And my brother got on there. Didn't admit that he was my brother. He was like, Jill McAbe has a transformational program. It was so, okay, bro, I love you. But that was so formal. And it was like, you're my brother. Just say, hey, my sister. Yeah, I finally worked with her. It was good. I wish it was just shows that just be real.
Yeah, the being real is hard. And then it's hard when you're trying to support somebody else to be real. So good for him for taking your course and for you two working together. But it's that big jump between, I think we're taught to have this big polished everything has to be perfect, and every word, and you get paralyzed, that perfection paralysis, because you're not going to be perfect, and so you're just not going to do it. And that's where you stay small, because you're not putting yourself out there. And that's what people do. They swing the pendulum, roll the dice, and go for it. And so if you're gambling on yourself to do those amazing things, to come on a live show without full teleprompter and script and hair and makeup, and just have fun, like, that's the risk. But then you learn so much, and you're also sharing all the knowledge with other people, more likelihood to attract more people with that too. So you were able to 10x your business though when you stop playing small.
Even more, actually. But yeah.
What was a light bulb? Go ahead. You have a light bulb.
The light bulb moment is, I just wanted to speak to something you said, just putting yourself out there, going out there. Yeah, like, that's actually how you get good, right? You get good with practice. So just practice. Get people to practice on. Practice. Like, I did it at the beginning. I did it for the longest time. And you get good at creating value for people. And then you're like, oh, I wish this was better, and blah, blah, blah. And just do it. If you think about it, perfect. So perfect is a phrase that really has always bothered me. It gets under my skin. But if you think about it, the only way to be perfect is to not grow and to get any better than you are. And one thing I've discovered with every single client is, when I teach them, like, when we actually build their businesses and they're designed to let money flow to them, they all get better at what they do because they're doing it more often. And the more you do it, the better you get. So it's not possible to stay. I talk about that in the Forbes piece that I've got on my LinkedIn page, because look, if you want to be perfect, that means you're doing the thing you did last. It means you're never growing. That's like automatically going to chokehold how good you can get in your field. Sorry, you had a different question, but you mentioned that, and I was like, oh yeah, good topic.
I love the way this is going, but that's like the imposter syndrome, where you're only an imposter because you're growing. And then once you land a few fundamentals, you're no longer an imposter. So we're constantly, if you are people like us who are trying to grow and you have to adapt, especially in this new era, then we're all imposters for a short time, and then you grow into it.
But then you're imposters again, because as soon as you grow into it, I always use the analogy, like, what happens, because I worked with people prior to this who were very successful, and then we'd have another upswing. And what happens to anybody who's already like climbed a mountain and gotten there? You think they just sit around and, like, this is in the last chapter of my book, like, sit around and drink tea or beer or wine and go, yay? No. Every single ambitious person I've ever known sees the mountain past the mountain they just climbed, and they want to climb that now. So I think people have a month at best as a non-imposter before they become an imposter again, because they're like, I'm going to go climb that mountain. I've never climbed that mountain. I'm going to figure it out.
I love that, because it's the goalpost, but it's the next mountain. But so you think there's a month where we feel like, okay, I've settled. I know what I'm doing. Okay,
I have no idea how long it is. 3 months, 5 months. But the whole point is, it feels like everyone, I work with ambitious people, right? So every time they get somewhere, they want to make the world better. They want to heal more people. They want to reach more people. And that comes with new challenges. And that comes with, like, I'm an imposter right now, right? I probably doesn't show, but I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm like, COVID, great, I can hide inside. Nobody will care. Writing my book, awesome. But I love teaching. I love sharing knowledge. I love working with my clients. But coming out, doing LinkedIn Lives, coming on social media for the first time, terrified. It still kind of terrifies me. Because I'm like, whoa, like, every time I do a post. But I know to help people, I have to do that. So here I am, an imposter right in front of you, working on that.
And by you putting yourself out there, though, it's just one person. And that's the one person to the next person to eventually millions of people that you end up helping by just putting yourself out there and the practice of all of it. And, then you can run back in and be the ambivert or
yeah, it's the ambivert, really. Yeah, that's
true. Yeah. I have a comment from Sarah, and Sarah says, the world seems to require proof. Sometimes the proof isn't instantaneous. And the trick is in learning how to sell the analytics behind it. So is everything really sales and marketing?
I don't think so. It could be, Sarah, I don't know what you do, right? So that might help me, because my expertise is in helping expertise-based businesses. Although I used to work with a broad range of types of businesses, I have focused on this one because I see people with talent struggling. But I actually think that in my experience, and this is just in my experience, I have a boutique little thing going on. No, I think I love what you said here about the world seems to require proof. Sometimes the proof isn't instantaneous. So where I would take that is, I help people create transformational outcomes and then build those programs and get the proof. And what I have seen time and time again is that if you have a reasonable case, right? I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and you put something out there and you say, I'd like to do a case study. Would you do this with me? My clients get people paying them good money, like really good money, just to try things out. Why? Because we position it based around their purpose. We position it based around their love for what they're doing. We position it based around their background and where they're credible. And so, yes, they're taking their careers to this new place, but they're credible to bring it there. They're not just like coming out of left field going, I want to do that. But I welcome you to share. If that's not your industry, then it might not make sense. But in my experience, when people try to go after sales and marketing and the outcome-based transformation isn't there, it is very difficult. And the clients that I often work with have struggled with that. But again, I have a small scope, this is just my view of what I've seen.
See, I think when you don't have actual substance behind things, the jazz hands, as I call it. So, because my company has never been a marketing company. We're purpose-based. We are knowledge mobilization, learning, that type of thing. So when we see marketing companies come along and say, here, put this on and jazz hands, it loses it, especially in this era we are now. I love the jazz hands too.
I love that.
But I think that's to Sarah's point, is that it's not. So my answer to her would be, it's not all jazz hands. Because if you do not have substance, if you do not have something behind you, what you're doing, it'll only last so long. And I think the sniff test nowadays is pretty high, that people will figure out there isn't really much behind what you're offering or doing. And your business will be short run. You can fool people for a little while without having, something beyond sales and marketing. But if you don't really have an offering that's solid, then it's not going to last forever. And I think that getting the proof goes back to one of your earlier comments, where you go off and you do some lower paid work. I don't know if that was your words, but lower paid work with clients that are friendly to you, that you've worked with, and you can say, I'm trying this out. Will you work with me? Or what I did when I started this business, because content was brand new, I took things that I was doing in my last career as a journalist and said, this is how this relates to this. So I can obviously do it. It's in my toolkit. How do I bring it forward? And here are the benefits to you from hiring me, because I'm going to give you all of my thoughts and energy and my love to make this really happen, because I want the testimonial from you.
So Lisa, that's what I have people do. Let's bring this, first of all, let's figure out your life purpose, right? Let's look at what you can bring forward and make an offer exactly like what Lisa just described, because that's that. And I love that you just articulated, and I have my clients do this all the time, because I want to test, why am I doing it at this price? And when I say low price, it's probably not as low as what you think. It still needs to be an investment. I have found that it still needs to be an investment for people so that they have skin in the game, but that they know they're working with you in a collaborative way. And then you articulate, I'm doing this because, like, I did it when I wanted to try out something. And by the way, even when you succeeded, you can continue to do this to introduce new products or to do new transformational products. So I did one, I guess last September. And I said, listen, I want to do this thing. I'm going to make it like an unbelievable offer, because I'm writing a book and I want to write about you in my book. And so if you want this, I'd like case studies, and so that there's different things you can do.
That's great. So we'd love to hear from you. We heard from Sarah. Anyone else watching? And if you are watching the replay, we promise we'll come back and look at your questions there. But I have Jill McAbe when we're talking about her book, her recent Thrive article that's coming out, in which she talks about playing small and how often we play small. And I think you just teased it up there too about pricing. I think I think one thing we do is play small with our pricing for too long, where we know even when we get to the expert stage, oh, you're getting excited. Once we get to the expert stage, we don't own our price point. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, yeah, what she said. Really great lesson for me about pricing. I was kind of, okay, so pricing. When I learned about, how to position, so I didn't know how to, like, when I was consulting, I was charging a lot, because I made people a lot of money. And then I wanted to figure out how to sort of do group work with people who didn't have that kind of money to spend. And I didn't know how to price, and I way underpriced it at the beginning. Then I had this like aha moment at a conference I was at. There were people who were there, and the conference was selling, how to find another conference, like their back end, and it was selling another conference for $35,000. You could find your purpose, and I ended up studying how to find purpose for 5 years. I was very fortunate to, I know how to help people find their purpose. It took a long time to do it, but I can help consistently get people there. And I was charging a hilariously low amount for that. And then I was at this conference, and people were paying $35,000 for 3 days to go find their purpose. And I thought, I am undercharging. I am embarrassingly undercharging. Then right after that, I went to another conference, and one of the people on stage said, oh, like whatever you're charging, somebody will pay 5 times more. And I went, and obviously it has to be more high touch, or it has to be more whatever. And it just said, whatever you're doing, you can charge 5. There's somebody who'd rather pay 5 times more. And I thought, well, I just saw that. Like I saw even way more than 5 times more. And I thought, oh my God, that is true, because I saw it with my own eyes. And that's a big thing when you're starting out. You can't price like Anthony Robbins, you can't do that. Why? Because unless you have 5,000 people a week dropping onto your email list, and unless 1% of your mailing list can make you really rich, like 1% of your mailing list will make you rich at a price, then you're not pricing properly. And so you want to be high touch. You actually want to do more for people. You don't want to package up and try to be a brand when you're unknown yourself. And so that was just like oh.
But how did you get over it though? So did you just say, oh, they're charging 35,000 for 3 days, I'm going to charge 35,000, or like, how did you get over yourself? Like, I think that's the thing. It sounds great, but how do you actually realize your self-worth and your value to really, I know this is what you train in, but how do you do, like, what is that one how? Can you give us a how? Unlock it for us.
Just go back and figure out your money blocks. You got money blocks. Everybody has. There's nobody. I work with people who are making a lot of money. They have money blocks. Okay. So there's no such thing as not having money blocks. You could be making millions and you have money blocks. So just so you know, you have money blocks. You do. Yeah. And I figured out mine. Oh, go ahead.
It's the blueprint. It's what you grew up with and what you've been conditioned with. And
it's the stories. And there's a few things happening right now. There's like complex things happening, but first of all, comparitis. I had an assistant working for me last year, 40,000 influencer on Instagram, 40,000 followers. She makes nothing. Mm-hmm. She still makes nothing. I'm like, why? You need to go after your dreams. You need to make this. You need to blow this up. You need to do whatever. So please don't look online and assume how much people are making. In fact, when I see people online and they're just constantly posting, but they're not posting about the transformation that they create, I have a pretty good sense their business isn't doing well. So how do you go and find your money blocks? How do you kind of get in touch with this? For me, I went, oh my God, I have money blocks. I have money blocks. And it's like not enabling me to value this. And there's a couple of things you can do. You can really take a look at the clients you've helped and how you've really helped them. And you can, if you're up for it, meditate about how meaningful that is and how much you appreciate them and how much you appreciate your ability to get them there. My backstory was that I had, when my grandmother passed away when I was an early teen, it just like nonsense between my mom and her siblings. But at the time, the story that I picked up as a 13-year-old, it's not the true story, but the story I picked up was that my grandmother wasn't given the proper care so that people could get her inheritance. And that's not true. Okay. But as a 13-year-old, it seemed true. And so I created this thing like, if you have lots of money, which my grandmother did, they'll kill you for it. Or or if you get if you want or desire a lot of money, you'll maybe not get people the right care. So I created all this meaning that wasn't true. And then I had parents who had a terrible business, like wonderful, did amazing work, but did just very up and down business. And so my stories about money were not great. And so what I started doing, here's my one thing that I highly recommend you do. If just read books, like join programs, like be around people who are on the same trajectory you are on, and be in the smallest group you can be in. So please don't go be one of 1,000 people. You'll be invisible. If you can afford to get into a group of 10, get in that group. 20, get in that group. 50, get in that group. Be in smaller groups where you're surrounded by people who are achieving what you want to achieve. And then socially, you'll actually just acclimatize to them. And it's really true when they say, try to be at the bottom of every group that you're in, because you will just rise. And that's a whole neuroscience, social psychology thing, but that's the fastest way to start seeing that you're worth something.
Yeah, that's great.
Worth more. You know that you're worth something. Sorry, that you're worth even more.
Even more. And that's that idea where you're with the 5 people, the 5 people around you really dictate a lot to you. So make sure you're in good company with that. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time. If you have questions and you want to leave anything here, we're happy to come back and take a look later on social. Just one more point to what you were saying about all the social followings too. That's where in my professional branding course, I find that people, they want, 1 million followers, and you don't need that many true fans. You just need some people who really authentically follow you and believe in what you say and believe in what you do, because you've given them tremendous value. When you see people, the New York Times did an article not that long ago about how many people actually just have bots as followers, and they're not real and they're not going to give you anything. And that's, there's some liability with that for lots of reasons. But I think there's, if we're just constantly looking to feed the masses with something, you're never going to actually touch one person because they're all just up there with it. So Sarah says, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. Any final words? What are you up to next? So you have this book and you have the Thrive article coming out really soon. What else are you up to?
I stay pretty focused on working with my clients. I have a small group program. It's called Base Camp, and it's for people who want to really end the search for what they should do, because the type of work that Lisa does, you need to know what your value is. And I work with some incredibly talented people who are kind of close, but like, boom. And we land that. We find discover your life purpose and help you figure out your like the value and transformation you can bring, and then create a roadmap and develop a business like execution plan to build it. If that's your situation, I'd love to hear from you. Just reach out. You can DM me. You can reach out. You can find me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jill. I'm sure lots of people in this time of this era of change that we're in will be reaching out to you for sure. So, Jill, and it's Go Time is your book, the all-in system.
Yeah, can I do this? Can I do it?
That's in business and life, like a long title.
Wait, how do I do this?
Oh, great. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And where would they get your book?
So right now it's on Amazon. I self-published it in March. I got picked up. It's just an ebook at the moment. I got picked up by a traditional publisher, and in New York, Morgan James will be publishing my book, and it will be available for print in the late fall. And so if you're interested in the print book, just again, DM me and I can organize that. But if you're on Kindle, then it's already available.
Oh, good. Congratulations. That's great. Yay. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And thank you everyone in the audience for tuning in to our LinkedIn Live. See you again real soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa.